Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. As for what we're getting into here, I want to line up the biggest concerns that I have for the 49ers against the New York Jets. Just taking a look at some of the biggest and most important matchups in this game on Monday Night Football. Before we dive into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button as we're approaching 140,000 subscribers. And if you're coming across the show for the first time and you're unfamiliar with our game and what we do, shows every single day, which cover 49ers news and analysis, breaking news coverage, Niners draft content, 49ers free agency intel. We go live for every single Niners game, preseason, regular season, playoffs, and we do the biggest numbers among all Niner channels on YouTube as far as our watch party numbers go. And then we do live shows as we're live right now on the Niners Report. Hit that subscribe button. I promise you, we won't disappoint you with our coverage. My biggest concerns for San Francisco against the New York Jets. Number one, first-year defensive coordinator Nick Sorenson against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I understand it was only the preseason, but I did not like what I saw from the San Francisco defense in those three preseason games because the Niners, according to Pro Football Focus, had one of the worst defenses among 32 teams during the preseason. And Nick Sorensen has never called plays as a defensive coordinator before in his life. And I worry about how the Niners hold up in some of these money down situations. I'm talking third downs and in the red zone, especially going up against a veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who might be 0-4 against San Francisco in the playoffs, but is 6-3 against the Niners in the regular season. He's coming off that torn Achilles. He wants to prove everybody wrong. He wants to prove and show everybody that he can still play, and he's not far removed from winning back-to-back MVPs. Aaron Rodgers can still sling it. Aaron Rodgers can diagnose the defense, and he might be able to eat up against an inexperienced play caller. I know that Kyle Shanahan has a great track record of hiring coordinators. I know that some of the marquee players on this Niners defense, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, they're pumped up about Nick Sorensen. But I have my concerns because this is a difficult matchup for him to make his debut as a defensive coordinator in prime time. As for those concerning defensive areas for the Niners, last year, they were not good stopping teams on third down, 42.4% conversion rate for the opposition. That was 27th among 32 teams. And then opposing yards per rush. The Niners were number 3, I think, against the run with DeMeco Ryans as DC 2 years ago. They fell off a cliff, and they were 21st in opposing yards per rush at 4.3. San Francisco has to get better in these two areas against the Jets to open up the 2024 campaign. Concern number 2 is stopping Jets running back Bree Hall. Because the Jets have been so bad, a lot of people don't realize how good of a player Bree Hall is. But if you're playing fantasy sports, I think that Bree Hall is one of the better fantasy options that you can go with. Year 1, after he was drafted out of Iowa State, he was actually Brock Purdy's roommate. He was really good in the 7 games that he played, 2 starts, and then he hurt his knee. But then last year, he was good, and I think year 3 is going to be a breakout year for Bree Hall. 6'1", 220, good size, good speed, good athlete, good cut ability. Last season, with the bad offensive line and horrendous quarterback play, 223 carries, 994 yards, and 5 touchdowns, a long of 83. So he does have that getaway speed. He also had 4 receiving touchdowns, 76 catches, and 591 yards. Sneakily, he's become one of the best dual-threat running backs in the NFL. A terrific matchup for football nerds out there. Brandon Ayuk against Sauce Gardner. Ayuk got $30 million per year, $76 million in guaranteed money, $47 million payout by April 1st of 2025. He wanted a bag. He got top 5 wide receiver money. And now it's time to show up and show out against one of the finest corners in the NFL. Sauce Gardner is terrific. Overall Pro Football Focus grade last year of 88.6. A coverage grade of 90.6. 76.8. That is nearly perfect from the PFF metrics. A passer rating allowed of just 76.5. Yards per catch allowed of 8.7. He kept everything in front of him, has ball skills, is very aggressive. He didn't have any interceptions last year, but consistently makes plays on the ball and has very sticky coverage on some of the game's elite wide receivers. All of those numbers coming on 583 coverage snaps. Plenty more to get to here on the show, but here's today's poll question. What is your biggest concern for the Niners against the New York Jets? I know you're probably going to talk about the offensive line. We're going to talk about the offensive line coming up here in just a moment. But first, want to give a shout out to Prize Picks for making today's 49ers report possible. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stat lines. And Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections for a game or a season, and you watch the winnings roll in. If you sign up today, you get $50 instantly. When you play $5, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. What I also really like about Prize Picks, there are specials, which makes winning easy. For instance, every week in the month of September, there is a Caleb Williams special. More than a half passing yard. Are you kidding me? He's going to surpass more than a half passing yard, even if you don't like him and his nail polish. Christian McCaffrey, hopefully he can play against the Jets. More than 115 and a half rushing and receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk, more than 4 receptions. I love that. And then Bree Hall, more than 63 and a half rushing yards. Pick 2 or more players, choose more or less, and I want you to choose Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the code CLNS for that special deal. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. Another big matchup here in this Monday Night Football tilt is Kyle Shanahan against Robert Salah. Robert Salah, the Niners defensive coordinator for a couple of years before taking on the New York Jets head coaching role. And this is an offensive mind against his protege, who is a defensive mind. Last year, San Francisco's offense, called by Kyle Shanahan, #1 overall offensive unit in the NFL. The New York Jets, they still won 7 games after Aaron Rodgers popped his Achilles a couple of plays into the year, and Zach Wilson was so bad. But that defense is legit. #1 in yards per play given up at 4.6. And last year, I thought it was a little bit of a red flag how San Francisco struggled against some of the elite defenses in the National Football League. Cleveland Browns and Jim Shorts. Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. Lou Anarumo and the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike McDonald and the Baltimore Ravens. Steve Spagnuolo and the Kansas City Chiefs. To open up the season against a high-caliber defense like this, it will be a tall test, especially with Ayuk and Trent Williams just signing recently. The Niners are trying to patch things together here going into a very difficult Week 1 matchup. If anything, I'm looking at the under in this game. Next, the Jets defensive line against the 49ers offensive line. The Jets defensive line is a strength for their ball club. The Niners offensive line is a weakness for their team. And I can guarantee you this, that the Jets are going to load up the defensive left side and the offensive right side to try to take advantage of Colton McKivitz at right tackle. And if Jalen Moore plays at left tackle, look out. Brock Purdy could be running for his life. It could be a game where San Francisco really prioritizes trying to run the football. McKivitz last year thought he was the worst starting right tackle in football, more than 1,000 snaps, 573 pass blocking snaps. He gave up 9 sacks, 47 total pressures, and 4 hits. He was one of the lowest graded right tackles in all of football. Now, hopefully, Trent Williams is going to be able to play. He told Larry Krueger this week that he has made some changes to his off-season conditioning program. He looks to be in fantastic shape, but he's also 36 years old. So hopefully he's the anchor there at left tackle. Aaron Banks coming off that pinky surgery at left guard. Jake Brendel, pretty average there at center. Dominic Pooney was one of the stars of Niners training camp. San Francisco looks to have found a stud at the right guard spot, and then Colton McKivitz at right tackle. The positive with Pooney, hopefully, is that he's going to be able to help McKivitz out on that right side. We move forward. Big matchup here. George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, if he plays, in the pass game against Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley. Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley are one of the best linebacking duos in the National Football League. And just like Bree Hall has kind of fallen under the radar, Garrett Wilson, a really good wide receiver, has fallen under the radar because the Jets have been so irrelevant and a lot of people don't recognize the Jets and they don't play in the playoffs. This linebacking duo, I think, is underrated and under-talked about. They are fast. They are physical. They can wreak havoc on the game. They have great speed from sideline to sideline. They are tenacious, and together, they're really good. In coverage, against the run, an occasional blitz package. So Christian McCaffrey, or George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey against Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley, that is a high-level, in-depth football matchup to look out for on Monday night. If you enjoyed today's show, give me a real one down in the comment section. Always appreciate your support and always appreciate the legends who watch until the end.